All right. Good evening. My name is Jeanette Ortiz, Chair of the Anne Arundel County Police Accountability Board. I call this meeting of the Police Accountability Board to order. We will go through our agenda. Let me pull up our agenda. First is approval of the minutes of the September 23rd meeting of the PAB. So the audio recording of the meeting will serve as the minutes for that meeting. At the September meeting, the chiefs and the sheriff for Anne Arundel County all attended the meeting to introduce themselves to the new members of the board. They discussed their perspective on the implementation of the Police Accountability Act. And we're able to, discuss the things that they've seen as changes and improvements during this time that the law has been in place. We also heard from Lisa Sneed, former chair at the time, now former chair of the Administrative Charging Committee. She provided a very helpful update to the board of the work that the ACC has been doing. Each law enforcement agency also provided their quarterly updates. We heard from the Office of Police Accountability. Is there a motion to approve the minutes to the September meeting? I see Sean's hand. Is there a second? All those in favor say aye or raise your hand. Any opposed? All right, the minutes are approved. Next, we'll move on to public comment. We did not have any signups in advance of the meeting, but just a few friendly reminders if there's anyone who would like to provide public comment before we get started. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to provide public comment. If a speaker is representing an organization, the speaker shall have 5 minutes to provide public comment. A timer will be used, and once the buzzer sounds, please wrap up your comments. Any remaining time may not be allocated to another speaker. We ask that comments remain civil and appropriate for the various audiences who may be watching the meeting. The board cannot discuss any specific cases. It is not the practice of the board to engage in back and forth with speakers. All right, is there anyone who did not sign up in advance who would like to provide public comment this evening? I see Brian raised his hand. Okay, let me get my timer here. Welcome, Brian, to the meeting of the Police Accountability Board for Anne Arundel County. You may go ahead and provide public comment. Thank you. You can go ahead and provide your public comment at this time. Are guests able to put messages in the chat? Are you having maybe technical difficulties?
Okay, there we go. Are you able to hear me now?
There we go. Yes. All
Thank
right.
you. I think I
Welcome
was
and thank
waiting.
you.
Thank you. I'm sorry for that. I guess I needed an unmute request from the host.
Oh, got it.
Um,
Okay.
Hi, good afternoon or good evening. My name is Brian Hart, and I simply wanted to just touch base. I'm very interested in the work of the Police Accountability Board, and I'm happy with everything I've seen so far. And I just dropped an email to a couple of you there. I had a couple email addresses, and I was wondering if you guys have seen the body-worn camera research that was done back in July and the results of that. And that's it for my comment. I shared that with a couple folks I had email addresses for, and I'd be happy to follow up with more information. Feel free to email me back. And I believe Ms. Rogers also has my email contact. So that's really all I've got. If there's any comments from the body-worn camera research that was done back in July, I'd appreciate hearing about that. That's all I've got. Have a great evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that. Yeah, Jen, if you could share what Brian shared with you, that would be great for the board to have. And we are happy to circle back with any questions. And we look forward to seeing you in future meetings, Brian. So thank you so much. All right, is there anyone else who would like to provide public comment at this time? Okay, I don't see any hands up. All right, if anyone pops on, I think we've just made it part of our procedures to just let them speak, later in the meeting. Okay, all right, well, that ends our public comment period. So we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, new business. Do we have any new business to discuss? Jen, Moya, do you have anything for us?
No, I haven't received any new business from any of the members of the board.
Okay. All right, does any member have any new business that they wanted to bring up or discuss at this time? All right, well, we'll move on to the next agenda item, and that's our big one. So it's the review of the draft annual report. So hopefully everyone's had an opportunity to review the report. Of course, first and foremost, thank you so much to Moya and Jen for all your help and putting it together and getting it in such a wonderful place. So I think, Moya, I'm trying to remember last year, did we just I just went through it, and we, folks, we went through each section just like briefly, and then if folks had questions, we just addressed them.
I believe that's how it went last year.
Okay. All right, great. So I'll do that. So you'll see we've shared the previous reports, and just as an FYI, I think Jen included it in her email, but just in case, this is draft, so it's not formatted yet at this time to make it beautiful, like Jen always makes it very beautiful. Yeah, Jen, if you can share your screen, that would be great, because I think I will mess that up somehow. And also doesn't include like our final statistics, because we include statistics until November 30th each year. So our reports are like December 1 from the previous year to November 30, because that will allow us to have it in time to the General Assembly and the county executive as required by law. And so that is why the statistics are not included. But what we do is we take up the bulk, the substance of the report here today, and then, vote on adopting it, whether with edits or without additional edits. And then in December, we'll look at it just, with the inclusion of all those statistics and make sure that everything's good. And we'll just like do that final adoption there. So, okay. So the first, part of the report's letter from me, letter from the executive director, Ms. Panda. Any questions there? Okay. And then next, and this is included, we do some tweaks here and there, but this next part, the history and purpose, is going to be pretty standard in all of our reports. It's just giving you history of like how we got to where we are, why, how we became a police accountability board. We talk about state and county legal requirements. So as you know, the state passed a law in 2021 requiring each county and the city of Baltimore in the state of Maryland to establish police accountability boards and administrative charging committees. And the state police has a police accountability board. And then each county passed and Baltimore City passed their own local laws. And so that covers that. We also have membership of the PAB and background and expertise. Next section. And then the PAB meetings. So, oh, sorry, did I miss the administrative? Am I in the wrong place? Yes, PAB meetings. So it's just a summary of all the meetings that we have. I think sometimes we forget all the work that we did. I know we're always looking to do even more and be more creative, but this is a good kind of reminder of, or different community organizations that we've been engaged in that have come and spoken to the board and presented on their work with police accountability and their perspective. And so that's really important. So that's meant to cover the meeting. Then we have the training and professional development. So of course, The state has certain requirements, but then county law requires us to have additional training. So for example, like we do our ethics training, we have an implicit bias training. We have to do the ride-alongs with one of the agencies each year that we're on the board. You know, before the end of our term, each of us completed the 11-week community, is it I always get this wrong. It's the Community Police Academy now? Okay. It was Citizens Police Academy when we first did it. The Community Police Academy, which is really up close and personal. And I know a few of you, I think new members are doing that right now. When's the last, I'm curious, when's the last, did you guys already have your last class in your graduation?
The
Thursday is
graduation is this,
graduation.
this Thursday.
Oh, that's exciting. Okay. Yeah, well, congratulations. It's a big deal. It's a lot of commitment. It's 3 hours every Thursday, and you get everything, right? From like SWAT to ethics to just stops, police stops, which was very enlightening for me and eye-opening, all of the training requirements. And one of the things that for I think most of us that took the training that really stuck with us is just how above and beyond the Anne Arundel County Police Department goes when it comes to training requirements of their officers as it relates to training. The state has, certain requirements, but Anne Arundel goes above and beyond, and oftentimes they're brought in to provide sort of like training to other agencies. We know that they work with our other agencies in the county, but also around the state, and they do things nationally as well. So that was very interesting for me, to just better understand that. And so hopefully everyone's enjoyed the training, the academy. All right, next is the complaint process. So again, this is straight out of state law, right? The state law requires certain things. One thing that is a little bit different in our county than probably most of the other counties is the state law requires us, the PAB. So there's different ways that folks can submit a complaint. They can do it through the PAB. We have an electronic form online where folks can submit that information. It comes to PAB. We are required by law to then forward it to the impacted or the relevant law enforcement agency for the county, for them to review and either investigate, circle back with the person who is submitting the complaint. Our county law also requires the agencies to send to us information about complaints that they received directly, also within 3 days. So that's something that's a little bit different here. So this section really covers, all of the details of the complaint process for folks. Any questions there? Okay, and I think, is this the first year we added something on the administrative charging committee? I can't remember if it was last year, but I don't think we included it. Well, we didn't include in the first report because we hadn't stood up the administrative charging committee, but this is just background on the administrative charging committee and their charge under law and what they're tasked with doing. So that gives background there and the members. And yep, so as noted here at the bottom, and as I mentioned earlier, we don't have the data because it's not finalized yet, but we'll have it. We'll look at that in November and in December, and you'll get it in advance. And, part of our charge and also the ACC's charge is to look at trends, right? And so obviously we're still a little new. We're in year 3. Of the new law, but folks really implementing and being able to, we're just starting to see trends in the types of complaints that we're seeing. So obviously, in a couple more years, once you're 5 years out, 10 years out, we'll have much better analysis of what that looks like. But I think last year we finally started seeing a little bit, and you'll notice that when the agencies come and present to us, they'll start sharing more like the trends of the types of complaints and things that they're seeing. And so that's something that the legislature wants to see, like, what are we seeing? What are we noticing? And what we've heard from the agencies is that, if it's something about policy, or if there are complaints of discourtesy, for example, that it's informative for them because maybe they have to tweak their training, right, to address something. So that's what that section is for. This is background on the trial board. So as you know, when there is a complaint that goes to the chief or the sheriff, and they do their investigation, it gets submitted to the ACC, and if there's discipline that is recommended, the officer can choose to accept the discipline or they can request a trial board. So we also, one of our responsibilities is to have civilian members that can be members of the trial board. And so we've found individuals, in some cases, there may have been folks that applied for PAB or ACC and didn't make it because there's such limited, there's only 9 of us and there's, I think, 5 ACC members, but they were still really good candidates. So we will have reached out to them and say, hey, if you're interested, this is another way that you can be involved. And they also have their training as well that they're supposed to participate in. Jennifer?
I just had a quick question about what's provided related to the trial board, because I know that stats are provided related to the ACC, but the trial board, there have been so few of them that maybe it doesn't make sense to provide any stats because there's not a way to keep those sort of like de-identified. I don't know if that's a question that I'm asking. Sorry. I think the question that I'm asking is, are there stats other than, like, I think when we provide the ACC stats, it's stuff like about the outcomes, like how many have been charged and how many have not been charged. And I'm wondering, is there a plan for that for the trial board stats, or are we at a point where there have been so few that they can't be de-identified, so they can't be, those stats can't be provided?
I'm not sure. Yes, we do have the stats. I'm not sure it's going to be in a graph form, but it'll be at least in a paragraph form for the trial board. So you will see a section that says, 6 trial boards have been requested, but only 3 have gone forward. And this is the results of the trial board. It may not be in a graph, but it'll probably be in a paragraph to this section once we run the data. If Jen is able to do a graph, we'll let you know and you'll see it in there, but if not, it'll probably be a paragraph.
Well, and I think the other thing to note is that there's so much time between when the ACC is making a decision on that case and when these things are actually going to trial board. I mean, we're talking 8, 9, 10 months. So I don't even know that there's a good way to pull the data other than very generally 8 have been requested, 4 have been canceled, and even just getting the final report out of the agencies, some have been easier than others. So yeah, it may not be consistent, but we'll get you guys what we can.
Thanks, Moya and Jen. Appreciate that. Yeah, and thank you. That was a great question, Jennifer. I think, as I mentioned, maybe like in 5 years out or 10 years out, once we have all, that information of numerous trial boards, and we can kind of, somebody can kind of go through all those data points and are better able to kind of compare and contrast, like, hey, this is what the ACC is recommending, and then this ended up in a trial board and this was the end result. And but I don't think, as Jen pointed out, we're there yet, just because of what she said, just the time lapse. But yes, we'll definitely, I can't remember how we presented that information in the past, but we will have information on the trial boards. Any other questions? Okay. All right, so now we'll get to our recommendations. So these are our 2024 recommendations, and these are based on, a lot of these came from the Administrative Charging Committee, and as you know, Moya and Jen also staff the Administrative Charging Committee, and it's things that I've been hearing and they've been hearing and they've experienced firsthand and in the work of the Administrative Charging Committee. So these are recommendations for this year. Obviously, any feedback is welcomed and appreciated. But the first one is basically the agencies submitting their case files to the ACC with inaccuracies and inconsistencies. So, obviously being accurate is very important when it comes to the files, because the Administrative Charging Committee is reviewing this information, and they are using this information to make a determination in the end, right? So, you know, there have been instances when the reports are just difficult to read. There have been mistakes by the report writers. And so one example is reports. We've seen this from the agencies that have reported, but we've seen it more from the Annapolis Police Department, and they're aware of this because this has been brought to their attention, where we've seen that the recommendation isn't addressing, the chief's recommendation doesn't address all the charges included in the report. And so then therefore that causes delays because the ACC has to send it back and say, hey, you know, why didn't you address X, Y, and Z? So the recommendation is that the reports are written in a concise, accurate manner, and that they address all charges. And so, you know, we understand, and we've heard from the Annapolis Police Department, I think they've had quite a 365 days or quite a year with a lot of different things. They've had, you know, certain unfortunate things out in the community. They have a major officer shortage. So we understand that that has contributed to the issues identified in this recommendation. So we recommend that the Annapolis Police Department, in addition to the, you know, making sure the reports are concise, accurate, and addressing all the charges, apply for as many grants as possible to hire and train staff that are able to just really dedicate their time to these investigatory files to ensure that, you know, the ACC is receiving the accurate and the best information. And then we also recommend that they meet with the Anne Arundel County Police Department to discuss best practices. As I mentioned earlier, you know, our agencies do work and collaborate together on a variety of things, so this would be a really great opportunity for collaboration there. Any questions or comments on this recommendation? Okay, so the next one is the second issue that the ACC has encountered is the year and a day, and I think you'll probably hear this a lot during your time. Those of us have been on the PAB, we hear it, you know, several times a year, and certainly those of you who are new will hear this. So current law requires that an investigation, basically a determination is made within a year and a day of a complaint of an agency being made aware of a complaint of alleged police misconduct, and a complaint coming from a member of the public. And this has become a little bit of an issue because the ACC has received cases from agencies with insufficient time to adequately review them. And so what we have found is, you know, let's say there are instances where they only have 30 days before that year and a day is where that deadline is looming. And that's just not sufficient time because it doesn't allow the ACC to go back and ask questions, or maybe, you know, if there's a lot of body-worn camera, for example, footage or other things that they need to review, and they might have other cases that they're reviewing, right? We don't know what the workload is at any given time. That's insufficient. And so therefore, that can create problems in the ACC really being able to do its job as faithfully as possible in accordance with the law. And so this chart here really breaks down the percentage of cases where we've seen where they've had like almost 23% of cases with 30 days or less to review. And then you have almost 32% that fall within 30-60 days. So right there, you have more than 50% of cases that are like 60 days or less, and that's insufficient. So the recommendation is that cases are submitted no later than 60 days prior to that expiration of the year and a day. And so the agency should, you know, do what they need to do on their end to streamline their processes and their investigatory process to ensure that they're able to do that. Obviously, we know that things happen and there might be, you know, some exception, but certainly it should not be the norm, because it does create just unrealistic burdens on the ACC to do its job. Any questions or comments on that recommendation? All right, we'll go to the next one. Okay, so we had this one specific to Annapolis Police Department. So there was one particular case where an officer suspended 2 cases without further investigation, and it was done mistakenly. And the cases should not have been suspended. So fortunately, this was, kind of caught by the ACC. But then the same officer closed a second case that should have been reassigned for further investigation. So we're recommending that the Annapolis Police Department address whatever the flaw is in their computer infrastructure that is allowing officers to suspend cases or close cases without there being higher level review and approval, and implementing some sort of checks and balances to ensure that this doesn't happen again. Any questions or comments on that recommendation? Okay, so those are the recommendations for this year that we have for the agencies. And then, so the next section of the report has to do with the data and definitions. So we provide definitions and resources. And again, the report will have the data and the graphs and all the things that we'll be able to look at more closely that before the next meeting that we'll vote on the report with the inclusion of that data. So that will be included there. And then these are just links to our 2 other reports that we previously had that we drafted and submitted, and then additional resources. All right, I think that's it as far as the review of the report. So what we do is, obviously I'll take any questions, comments, feedback, and then we'll vote on, whether to adopt the report with or without amendments. And any questions or comments from anyone with this report?
It looks great. I like the clarity in the recommendations and why. So I just, it's all whole. I like it.
Thank you. And just as a reminder, so we're required by law to submit this to the General Assembly, and then the county and also the county
It's
executive.
county
But-
council and the
and
county
then-
executive.
Yeah, so then, and the county council and the county executive, so we do that. But we also have decided as a board, and I definitely recommend we continue to do, is that we submit it to the our delegation, the Anne Arundel County delegation. And we also submit it to the 2 no, that's it. General Assembly. Yes, the delegation. I was trying to think. So that they also have it because they sit on the various committees, and obviously they're local and they're dealing with our issues firsthand as a county, and they are seeing things firsthand, and so they're obviously able to speak on behalf of the county and be representative of our interests. Sean, I see your hand up.
Yes, Madam Chair, so remind me, so the recommendations, of course, goes back to those committees that made these legislative decisions.
Yeah.
Our report they will receive this in time for session, and
Yes.
session begins in January, to be able to hopefully look at these recommendations and make the changes for the upcoming year, right?
Yeah,
That's what we
absolutely.
hope.
Yeah, and I actually reach out to like the committee chairs of the committees, just as So I send it out to them with a link to, man, I tried to send it naively as a file the first year, and I was like, I'm old. I'm like, what am I doing? Like, it's not, it wouldn't upload anyway. It was too large of a file. And Jen was like, here's the link, send the link. So yes, we send the link, we send the information so they're able to see that. But what I do is I follow up, because there's a process by which we send things, which is, through staff, the legislative, library, the DLS, Department of Legislative Services librarian. Anyway, we submit it through that process, but then I go ahead and reach out to all the committee chairs in advance, and I reach out to the delegation. Each delegation member gets an email from Jeanette saying, hey, listen, and then what I do, this one's a little easier because we have 3 recommendations, but when, I think early on there were several other, we'd highlight the important ones, right? So, and just to bring you to your attention on page 13, see this and whatever. So I think as we discussed in a previous meeting, there definitely will be legislation this session on matters related to police accountability. Moya tracks that. I do it on the side since I do legislative work as my real job. So I always have my separate little tracking list of PAB things. And there's definitely an opportunity for us to weigh in. And then obviously, if I get feedback from legislators, once they receive a report, then I'll report back to the board and let you know. But if something, if there's testimony, if there is legislation that is consistent with our recommendations, certainly then, we can talk about whether someone, one of us board members would go and testify. If it made sense, for Moya to testify at a hearing, with her expertise on these issues. So there will definitely be opportunity for that. And even though we only meet twice during the legislative session, that's where check your emails, and we'll send emails and make sure everyone is fully informed. But yep, sorry, that was a very long-winded way of, yes, the General Assembly committees and the members will receive this.
Thank you for the clarity.
Yeah. All right, any other questions or comments? All right, is there a motion to adopt the report?
So
Yes.
moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
And let me clarify, the report without the data, because the data will be included when we look at it again December, but at least what the recommendations, what we have now. Okay, great. All those in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Yes, and so when we look at it again, we won't, I mean, obviously if something comes up and you notice something in the next report, but we'll be primarily focused on the data aspect of it. All right, great. Wonderful. Thank you so much. So next on the agenda, Ms. Panda will provide an update from the Office of Police Accountability.
Good evening, everyone. I want to give you a quick update on the ACC. As Jeanette mentioned earlier, Lisa Sneed is no longer the chair of the ACC because her term ended in October. So we thanked her for her work and all the, you saw her present, so you know how amazing Lisa is. But yes, her term ended at the end of October. So the new chair now is Kenneth Vinson. And they have their next meeting on this Wednesday, November 20th. They have 3 cases pending. That'll be Kenneth's first time being the chair of that session. So just want to keep you all updated what's going on with the ACC. We are down 1 member. So we have a total of 4 out of 5. We're looking at applications and requesting additional applications to get that 5th seat filled. So we'll keep you obviously updated with how that's going. And then the second part of my report was just to thank you all so much for your feedback with the annual report and reviewing it and asking all these questions. And of course, as Jeanette said, if you get when you get the report in December, if you see anything, even if it's grammatical errors or anything like that, please let us know. Sometimes when you're just looking at it, you get so laser focused and you'll miss like a spelling error or anything. So if you can also check for that as well, that would greatly help us out as well. Sometimes we do send the report to the communications commissions, directors, for them to review as well. But I love having as many eyes as we can, just make sure we're sending it out to all these people, want to make sure we get it right. So again, thank you in advance for looking at the report with an eye for detail. When I went to the training at the Maryland Police Training Center, MPTSC, I did meet with Wayne Silver, who you all have met many times, and he did say, you know, these annual reports, they're really looking for our recommendations. And I'm just so happy that we're able this year to provide some solid recommendations for our law enforcement agencies in Anne Arundel County. So, you know, if you think of anything else that we can add to these recommendations, let me know. But obviously, you all read them today. I think we have a solid foot on it. But if you think of anything else to add to those 3 recommendations, you know, obviously send me an email, Jenny email CC Jeanette for me as well. And that completes my report. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Moya. And you know, it's I'm glad that you're asking for more applications, because when we were just getting started as a PAB, Sean and Danny, I don't know if Sharon, you were on yet, but we had over 100 applications for the ACC, and we reviewed all 100 applications. And so I'm glad people are interested, and we want more interest. But it was a lot. It was a lot. We interviewed lots of people. We had some really great candidates. So hopefully some of them are applying for ACC. But yes, it was a lot of applications. All right. So I think that's it. So we just have announcements. Jen, do you have anything, or Moya, for us?
Yes.
Annoying. Oh.
Oh, go ahead. I think Jen knows what I'm going to say. Just on the agenda was just the requirements for the PAB to follow up on ride-alongs, implicit bias, etc.
Did you wanna?
Oh yeah, just a reminder, just check your
Okay.
emails. Oh, I thought you were gonna jump in. Just a reminder to check your emails. I think Jen sends out some things on implicit bias. And of course, if you already completed your ride along and if we missed it, just send us a quick email just to remind us. You know, Jen, I'm sure has a list perfectly itemized, but just in case, you can send an email saying that you completed your ride along. If you have not done it as well, you need to have it done before December 31st. And I believe that is it. Jen, did I miss any other trainings?
Nope, that's it. Just those 2.
Okay, thanks.
Well, thank you for keeping us straight. I like to live on the edge and wait until the mid to late December to do my ride-alongs each year. So
I think you just like getting weekly reminders from me. I think that's what it is.
I
Hey,
love your
Jeanette, just check it in.
Yeah, so I'm gonna keep that tradition. But yes, if you haven't done a ride-along, certainly it's a very interesting, you know, and informative experience. And I'm really grateful that we're required to do that, because I don't know that any, you know, what other counties require that type of, you know, training, hands-on training. And it's just really nice to be able to, you know, talk to the officer and kind of get to know a little bit about what they're doing and their job, what the things that they're seeing in the community, and just seeing them being very involved in the community. So I really appreciate that that is one of our requirements. All right, so those are the announcements. And then just, I will, you know, check your emails, try to check it a few times a week if you can, just to make sure, and especially during session, just given that the legislative session is 90 days, it goes very fast. I say in the legislative world, we work in minutes, you know, everything goes in minutes, and there's so much going on. So if there's ever opportunity for us to be more engaged, certainly Moya and I will share that with everyone. All right, I think we don't have anything else. Oh, the next meeting is on Monday, December 17th.
Tuesday, December 17th. Tuesday.
December 17th. So sorry. I'm going to write this down in all caps in my notes, because it'll be Monday. And I'm like, oh, Tuesday, December 17th.
And I sent out calendar reminders for that
I did see
today.
that. Yes, I saw the date, but I was clearly not paying attention to.
It's okay. The ACC meets on that Monday, so that's why we have to be on Tuesday.
Right. Yeah. And then I remembered after. Yep. So Tuesday, December 17th. Oh, one thing. So I haven't forgotten, Moya, putting together, we've had all these guests, speakers come and members of the community speak to us, which I don't know, I have found to be incredibly important, and it's been really cool. We try not to schedule folks when we have the agency updates because, it can get very lengthy, but we've done it in some of the meetings just because the way the schedule has worked out and people's availabilities have worked out. And it's been really cool just to hear even the agencies say like, oh, it was so helpful to know this. Like when Lisa did her presentation, they wanted a copy of that presentation. They thought it was really helpful. When we've had folks come, behavioral or the crisis response team. Anyway, so I'm putting together, and I know folks have made recommendations, so I'm just going to do and ask, and I'll send an email. If you have particular organizations or groups in the community that you think would be important for us to hear from, and their sort of interactions with law enforcement and police reform, and how it may impact different members of the community or folks in county government that you think it would be important for us to hear from, let me know. I'm trying to put like a calendar in place so that, every year, when it's Mental Health Awareness Month, it would be great to hear from our crisis response and our CIT folks. And that way we just kind of know every year that's, an NAMI of Anne Arundel County. We'll invite those folks and have a nice set calendar. And obviously we're flexible and can make adjustments as needed. And so that's something that I started to put together. So any feedback that you have, and so what I'll do is I'll have Moya look at it and then I'll send it to the board for you to look at it and give feedback and let me know your thoughts. But if you have any particular organizations, community groups, county or government, and like another example that we discussed, Moya and I, was just having someone from the General Assembly that was part of that work group that made recommendations that ended up in this new 2021 law. So having someone, on that work group or someone from the, Senate Judicial Proceedings Committee that deals with law enforcement issues, or a member of the House Judiciary Committee come and speak to us and the things that they're seeing, that I think that would be really helpful too. So those are the things that we're thinking about. And obviously any ideas that you have about the things that you'd like us to be doing or that you think would be beneficial and helpful. And then we keep asking the agencies too, like, hey, if you have things going on in the community, let us know if there's an opportunity for us, just to go participate or just be there as a guest, or more actively participate or passively participate. And same from our community organizations. Moya's always in touch and asking them to, let us know if there's ever a meeting or anything, an event going on that they think would be, worthwhile for us to attend. So similarly, if you're aware of anything, let me know and we can let me and Moya know, and Jen, and we'll make sure the whole board knows. All right, well, I think with that, is there a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Aye.
A second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, this adjourns the November 19th meeting of the Anne Arundel County Police Accountability Board. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here this evening. Thank you for all your feedback on the report, and we will see you on Tuesday, December 17th. Thank you.
All right. Happy Thanksgiving.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving.